To oh, we're live. Fantastic. So, hello everybody. I first of all, it's Julian Freeman again, Stars of Wellbeing, and let me start off with something extremely British by apologising for the stains on my shirt. It's been one of those kind of days.
Did you go anywhere?
It is Becky's. Who is that, Becky?
That's my 5-year-old Freya.
Freya.
Who are you talking to? Yeah, she's gone. She's gone. She's gone.
I thought we were going to have some real wisdom there for a minute.
She's got more interesting things to do than than talk to me.
Than watch to a person talking to a screen. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So anyway, here we are here we are again. Now this is they're just introducing, ladies and gentlemen, Becky Adams. Good evening, Becky.
Hello. Good evening.
Excellent. Lovely to have you on the conversation. Now we started talking a few weeks ago, and I've had a couple of great conversations with you. So thank you very much for already, which nobody else here was a party to. So we thought we'd have a conversation that everybody could be a party to, which is kind of nice. And we started off with we're talking about busyness, weren't we? You know, with how we kind of get as humans, part of the human experience is getting busy and just almost like, well, how does busyness feel for you, Becky?
It's interesting because I can experience sort of mental busyness and physical busyness, and I can experience both together, as in having a lot to do and being quite busy and anxious while it's going on. But recently I've also experienced being busy with lots to do, but actually being less busy up here. And you know, I've got 2 kids who are 3 and 5, so there's always a lot of busyness going on. There's always school runs and sandwiches to make, and you know, it's always parties to go to, and you know, things like that, and homework to do, which is we've been at this is where we've just come from. We've just come from grandma's doing our homework. So yeah, there's always a lot to do. But yeah, I can experience. I've experienced that with a lot of busyness up here, and what I find is that sort of manifests in the body quite a lot and creates just a feeling of it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling, that sort of stressy, busy. And what I've noticed is when you see where that mental busyness is coming from, when you really see that it's thought produced, I don't know. To me, it opens up a load of choice, because it's when you see that it's coming, it's always coming from here. And if you're feeling busy in your body and in your mind, it's the thinking that's running wild. And I think just that understanding on its own just sort of detaches a little bit from the sort of internal drama. And I think from that point, that's where I start to see that's where I start to see choice. And I start to see choice about what thoughts are entertained. And I see choice about what's important to me. And I think from there, that's where I really start seeing the free will opening up from that calmer place. Because where I think when you're stuck in that real busyness of everything going on, and it's quite paralyzing, and it's quite hard to. I get quite stuck when I'm busy. I feel overwhelmed and I feel uncomfortable in my body. But when you see that, and even in those really busy moments where, you know, maybe it's, you know, my mundane everyday example is it's kicking off with the kids. Even when you know, that's quite busy, you've got to get out the door, the kids are kicking off, and it's, we had one this morning actually. We had a drama over loom bands, which was which was fun, and it didn't. It was an external drama. It was a circumstance that, you know, before, and sometimes still, you know, you feel it, you take it on in your body. But this morning it's just so, I just find it fascinating that I could, you know, you can see that I don't have to feel stressed by this. I don't have to respond in a negative way to this. It's a choice. And that's not to say I never get caught up, because I do. But when it slows down up here, it just feels much more of a choice.
I had one a bit like that this morning as well. I was I've been doing some work on living from wisdom, which is, you know, it seems like it's now it's coming on for 2 years of project for me to bring all these fantastic sharers of the principles to the world, and it's not done yet. And last night I left it in a kind of funny, kind of mid-flow. So in the middle of the night, I'm waking up with this kind of knit one, pearl one, in technical speak, kind of thoughts like, oh yes, got to do that, and then I need to go there and do that, and then I need to go there and do that. And I woke up this morning. Well, first of all, I couldn't sleep very much, and secondly, when I finally did get to sleep and I woke up this morning and it came straight back to me, I could see that it was thinking. But I also knew that if I didn't just go and sit down at the computer and do the knitting, I'd be there struggling with it, kind of in my mind all day.
Yes.
Yes. So to that extent, I kind of had a choice of, well, I can just sit here and struggle with it and carry on in my day as I'd like to carry on my day, or I can go and sit down at the computer, do 2 hours of work, which I actually chose to do, and got it done, and bingo, the thought's gone. You know, it's no longer needs to be there, flitting around, knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one. Now, interestingly, knit one, purl one for me, you know, I think of knitting as does knitting fit this? Because I know people who can knit really complicated patterns, and they're not even concentrating on the knitting. They're talking to you, you know, thinking of other stuff, etc., etc. So it's obviously possible to go beyond that thought, to not let it drag you in. But in this case, for me, it was about I can't get this out of my mind. And I suppose what happens to me is that I go, hold on a minute, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not getting any sleep. I should be getting off to sleep. Another thinking starts to come in and crowd round the. So I suppose that's where I agree with you about you start to feel something in your body. You start to feel uncomfortable and kind of like, this shouldn't be happening. I should be able to control this, and you can forget about it till the morning because I can't do anything about it until then anyway. Or I could have got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and done it. Suppose I could have done it at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I didn't. So what does that mean? Did I? And that's, I think, where a lot of people go with their lives. And it's just a simple example, but once you decide to go with it and you do the next thing, and then something else comes in. You've got something happening with your kids, and another one of those thoughts that comes in, like the list of to-do things for today suddenly gets longer and longer, and it's not really the things that you would choose to do. I suppose is that true? Of course you choose to do them. You do, whether you tacitly or don't tacitly choose it. You've chosen, and that's where it was quite interesting for me, because we started off when we were talking about this before. We were talking about this busyness thing and how a lot of people get so their admin list of stuff to do gets so long that they never get, and so full of stuff and they get into that feeling of their thinking that they never get a chance to reach what you were talking about, that kind of ability to see it as thought and to choose whether to go with the admin list or whether to do something different.
I think when it comes down to something like that, I think, when you're, I think that's a really good example of a stress that you can avoid, is when that inner voice is telling you to do something, and you're kind of like, I don't, the tax return, that's mine. It's always like, you need to do the tax return. that's mine, and ignoring it, that just, it's, I think that inner voice that's telling you that's kind of your wisdom. These things have got to be done. It's the way the world works. It's mundane and it's boring, but it's got to be done. I think when you choose to listen to that voice, I think life does actually become less stressful, and that's an automatic kind of download of some thinking that's extraneous, really, that you don't need. Do you see what I mean? And because one thing we were talking about, and I'm not sure if it does, I suppose it does fit in with this, that how sometimes I suppose like you're doing with living in wisdom. That's what it's called, isn't it?
Living from wisdom.
Living from wisdom. I guess there's an end point, isn't there? And I suppose with projects, when we're talking that there's something that you want to achieve, and it's from, I think, where we were going, I think, with our conversation last time, was how sometimes these things, I'm not saying living from wisdom, but these things that we think we ought to achieve can sometimes feel like a real uphill struggle. And the question is that because we're battling against, you know, something that's not right for us? And where I'm coming from, if I rewind a little bit, because when what I find is when it slows down, the thinking around whatever situation, you know, you're in, when that thinking slows down, there's those mundane things that you've got to do, and if you don't do them, they cause stress. But when you're quieting down, I think I find that there's a I suppose a pull that, you know, a pull towards doing, you know, sometimes it is the mundane. Sometimes it is the mundane. If you're But that comes from kind of being really, really present and choosing whether that present is what you. The mundane is a good example, actually, of something that's been on my mind a lot recently. Is thoughts of how things should be. And when you lose those, when you make peace with those, you're just present and you're okay. And you're okay with whatever is reality. And I think when you're in that place where you're fine with reality, you accept it. I think once you accept it, I see a lot of choice then. That you accept it, but then you can choose to move from it. And I think that that's free will, and I think that that's okay. And I got quite confused about that for a long time. I got quite confused about losing. I got quite confused about whether I needed to go anywhere, or whether I just stayed still and let life happen to me. Because when I realised that quite a lot of my stuff that I was trying to achieve was very external based on what I thought I should be doing, I lost a lot of the things that I had to do. So a lot of my goals suddenly became a bit meaningless, and I questioned them all. And I thought, okay, so I'm here in the present, and what now? And I got really stuck in that kind of what now, because everything that I thought that I wanted, I didn't really want. It was just an external benchmark of someone else, or what someone else was doing, or what someone else had told me was the way. And a lot of those goals I've been kind of fighting to achieve, and it was quite a relief when I realised that they were quite meaningless. But also there was a big gap, a void of what now? Do I just sit here? Do I just, wait for life to happen? And I think that's where I got confused about free will. And where I sit on it now is that actually that place of being okay now, that opens up choice from a kind of more internal place, rather than the external benchmark that I'd been basing things on previously. The kind of the more I guess the more soulful, I guess a pull towards, and actually it can be really mundane. It doesn't have to be like a career goal or anything like that. It can be that I'm okay with the house being a mess, but actually I like it when it's not a mess. And from that place of, almost like a place of love, I'm tidying it up, as opposed to going, oh my god, the house is a mess. I'm so annoyed, and like I should tidy it up, and I'm not going to do it because it's just hard, because I'm at odds with how it is. Does that make sense? That was a very roundabout way of explaining.
That's really helped me, because I was struggling with your couple of your words. I mean, first of all, I was struggling with free will, and secondly, I was struggling with choice, because if I go to back to Living from Wisdom, the project, I never chose to do Living from Wisdom. I don't remember having a conscious choice. In fact, I don't even remember why I invited Dick and Bettinger to come over and do a workshop in the UK. And I remember the week before, it was just like literally the week before he was due over, it was like, oh, do you think I should video the event? He's like, sure. There wasn't any pre-planning, or, it just occurred. It just occurred to do it. And then I had started off on the work of the doing of getting Living from Wisdom out there. And now there was a beautiful thing in there for me, which was that I got loads of insights out of just editing the video footage of Dick and Bettinger talking for 2 days. And that's when I kind of knew that it was right to do. Well, I think I knew it was right to do all the time. So for me, it's not, maybe I'm splitting hairs now, but it's not a choice thing. It was just, I knew that I was going to ask Dick and Bettinger to come. Other people. Oh my God, would I ask George Pransky to come to the UK to do a 2-day workshop? I don't think would I line up? Now this is really exciting. Okay, so then it sat there. Then it sat there for, I don't know, almost 9 months, Living from Wisdom, doing not an awful lot, 30-odd something users, and all of a sudden I had other people asking me to get involved with filming, and now I've got, I haven't edited the last one yet, but now I've got like 5 workshops from 4 of the what I would say is the world leading sharers of the principles, and I've had to do more knitting to get them all in there and get the pricing right and so on. But it was a journey for me. I mean, in meeting each one of them, Jack Pransky, Elsie Spittle, amazing, amazing woman, and just the right person I needed to meet this year. And Jack Pransky was fantastic too, on the middle of his European tour, which I'm apparently responsible for the T-shirt, the Rockstar T-shirt. But there you go. And no, that was another moment of wisdom. We were just sitting having a coffee outside the place where he was doing his day workshop, and I said, "You've been on. You remind me of a rock star. You should have a T-shirt printed with all your venues on the back." And lo and behold, he did. So he was quite a little bit embarrassed about it, I think, at first, but then he thought, "Why not?" I think. So it's been a fantastic journey for me, and one that I would never have envisaged, and I would never have envisaged that Living from Wisdom had got to the place it's just about to be. I mean, where else is there a resource where you can get 4 of the world's leading sharers of the principles doing a full workshop? You don't even have to leave the comfort of your own home. It's all there. How about that? And then I get to the choice thing. Then I get to I want to make this really. I want lots of people to get the benefit of this. I really want it to get out there. I want lots of people to. The principles is really, could help so many people, and this could be such a fantastic resource. And there's the knitting, I suppose. And you're right. You can get to a stage with the knitting where you're cleaning up, and you can do it from a place of love. Like, I know what this is. It's important to complete this project. I don't particularly enjoy this bit, but
yeah.
It's part of so you can do that, or you can. The other thing is you can just get stressy about it. And I've thought about dropping it. I've thought about, a bit like you, outside. Maybe there's something outside in going on in here with my everybody's got to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what's I start getting like I almost get to the I'm not going to finish it. I've had enough of Living from Wisdom. Nobody looks at it. Hardly anybody. It's not getting the mass market penetration that I'd hoped it would. It's not changing the world, and I suppose part of that is just I'm not seeing what's happening with it in lots of ways. So and it's and that is, the moment you get attached to something, you start suffering. I think, as Dickon Bettinger would say.
Yeah.
So, and Amy Chen Mills said something wonderful. When I was with her in Spain, she went, I've gone past the evangelist stage now. I talk to people about the principles, and if they get it, they get it, and that's great. But they don't have to get it. They can live their life whichever way they want to. And I'm starting to get a sense of that, and I will complete Living from Wisdom, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, and it will sit there, and people will use it or they won't use it. I hope they will, but I'm not going to get attached to some big outcome, I guess.
Yeah, I think kind of being okay with the outcome is quite a peaceful place to be. When you're attached to it, it can.
It is, except I'm gonna. Did you watch that Emma Watson thing this week?
Oh yes, wasn't it amazing? Wasn't it just perfect?
For everybody that's watching, Emma Watson has just been on. If you're watching this years ahead, Emma Watson has just, at the time we're doing this hangout, has just been on as a UN ambassador for something called He for She, which is about gender equality, I guess. And the thing that I really loved about it was that she talks in the video, which you can see on YouTube, about that there are 2 stereotypes. There's a male stereotype and a female stereotype, and they both are restricting, both need to be changed, and there needs to be more freedom. Well, if you're, interestingly enough, when we spoke last time, Becky, I was doing the single parent thing, so I was looking after 2 kids, and but we were both talking about being really busy, running around after them and doing all the clearing up and all the rest, all those things that you do when you're a parent for relatively young kids. And so that's where I think busyness came from. But now where the place I'm in, I suppose, is that I've moved on from there to predominantly mums have that kind of mum thinking. I am responsible for bringing up these 2 children. If you forgive me for a moment, there is a kind of, whoever the lead parent is, there's a kind of stereotypical thinking that goes with that, being in that place. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
And then for a man, there's also some stereotypical thinking, I think, about being, Beck will always tell me, being successful.
Yes.
Successful business. You have a bit of that too. Successful business person, you know.
Yeah.
You know that, and you can start to chalk up what success looks like, you know, and then you're back to attached to something. You know, back to Living from Wisdom needs to have 20,000 users by, you know that. How am I going to achieve that? And that, to me, is the enigma of free will. So when you say free will, to me, that's my ego jumping into action, or my stereotypical thinking, or whatever you want to call it, going, right, to be the successful businessman today, I have to do X, Y, and Z. I have to, you know, get in and do the knitting. You know, today we had an opportunity to go walk the dog on the beach, and it was. I knew that if I didn't do my 2 hours of knitting, technical knitting first, I would really struggle to enjoy the beach.
Yeah.
And so I did my 2 hours. So I lost 2 hours of the day. I paid that price, but willingly. It was a choice, I guess. And then we went to the beach, and then I came away, and then I saw something on Facebook, and I started to get back into my thinking. My stereotypical thinking started to hit me again about being a successful business. We were at a place for lunch, right? And I looked around the room, and the only person who wasn't of retirement age or beyond was me. And I was like, oh, that's something wrong here. Maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I should be working. Maybe I should be doing something. You know. And so my stereotypical thinking seems to be something that it just comes back repeatedly.
Yeah, that comes. I think I was talking earlier because I've recently I've been reading Byron Katie, Loving What Is, and it's not principles, but it's the same thing. It's absolutely the same thing, and she very cleverly it targets specific thoughts, and they're the thoughts that cause pain. And should thoughts, the things should be different, I should be different, I should be doing this, I should, and that I need, they're painful too. And it's, you know, it's what she does is inquire on those, and there's specific thoughts, and it's really interesting, and it's, you know, it comes back to thoughts. It's not the principles, but it's the same result, that when you see the thoughts that aren't serving you, that you're thinking things should be different to how they are, you're not at peace, and you're not present. You're somewhere else. You're creating a story and creating pain. And when you know, I've had those shoulds around business, a lot of them, and when I kind of identify them and break them down, and basically what she does is ask, I think it's 4 questions. Basically, the first question is it true? And then the next questions always prove that it's not true. They always do. And it always comes back to no, there's no way of knowing anything should be different to how it is. And that's been really it's been really poignant for me the last week or so. Really has, and just kind of letting, just seeing through those shoulds as totally imaginary is quite, it brings about quite a lot of peace when you stop believing that things should be different to how they are, and I think it brings you back to that more intrinsic place where you're like, I'm okay with where I am, but this is what my heart's telling me, and you start doing stuff regardless of that sort of peaceful moment. The kind of thinking comes in, that's what happens, we're human, but just seeing it for what it is, and that's what I see as the choice. The choice is to firstly believe the thoughts, believe the thinking that's causing you pain, and then whether you actually want to entertain them further. And so I think that's the first point of choice, and that, to me, that opens up free will of where you go from there. But then that, I'm going to contradict myself totally now, because that then raises the question of whether you're then guided by something that's not free will, or something that is free will. No. Something that's, I don't know, come from within, but whether it's come through you and you didn't choose it. So is that, I don't know, I'm confused and I'm contradicting myself, but...
No, you're getting a really important place, really coming to a really important place for me, because I was, I don't know if you read the email I sent out to everybody to bring them to this hangout, but...
Yes, I did.
There was something that Sue Anderson said to me about, well, I was talking to her about, I wish I knew where I was headed, I wish I knew what was, and she turned around to me, she said, look me in the eye, just as Sue Anderson does, and she said, but you're on your flight path, like you are the going there, wherever there is, you are going. And I think what you were talking about there, whether you choose to get, it's about how much do you sense. Now, how much do you sense whether you're on your flight path? Because the moment you don't sense it, or the moment that you let some other thinking take over, you start to deciding to follow that path, you kind of go off your flight path. And you kind of take the long route, I would call it. The long shortcut, as my mum always used to call it. And my dad would get into a traffic jam on the quickest route, and he'd go, I know a better way. And off he'd go. And usually it would take longer and farther, and but it was, hey, it got us there. And that's the point. It still gets you there. And the other point I think is really important here, and this has kind of brought me something in terms of understanding of what innate health means, is that we always have that inbuilt guidance system that brings us back to our, pointed back towards our destination. However hard we try to head in another direction, those feelings you're talking about are the things that are going, no, point the other way. This is not the right way for you to be pointed, and so all we do is start to learn to listen to that. And then your Pyron Katie thing is, for me, means something about how long you spend on your long shortcut before you decide that this is just not the shortcut that you thought it was going to be. You see that, and you start pointing back in the right direction. Now, Beck has a great thing that she always says to me about this, which is there's no wrong direction. You can go way off track, and you're still moving, you're still learning, you're still growing, you're still.
Yeah.
And a huge part of the human experience, I believe,
Yeah.
is to be in that experience of having stereotypical thinking and believing it for a while, and then realizing that it's not true. And I think Dickon would say, if you look at my latest workshop with him in the Quiet Mind one, he'd say that as little kids you kind of snap out of it really quick. You get caught up in a thought and then you let it go. And as adults you hung on to it longer and longer. To the point where I've been doing Stars of Wellbeing for 4 years now. And is it really making me doing what I want to be doing? Is it really making a difference in the world? Is it really right for me? But I could ask all those questions, but ultimately it's got to say something that 4 years on I'm still doing it.
Yeah. And you are, and I told you about how we came to be connected, didn't I?
Oh, cool.
Because this is interesting. I'm talking about free will, and yes, we got choice, but actually, I can say that I can look back on everything that I've done, all the stupid things I've done over the years, all the mistakes I've made, and I can look back on them from a place of seeing how important they are to getting me here right now. And I find that really interesting. And there was one thing that I did that was really random. My son was probably nearly 1, and I suddenly wanted to do this makeup course, which was it was quite a random thing for me to do at the time. And I live in Cardiff. It was over in Norfolk, and people were saying to me, well, why are you doing this? I was just like, I just want to do it. I just want to do it. And for a long time, I kind of didn't, I sort of came away. I had an amazing time on the course. And for a long time, I sort of came away and go, why did I do that? And funnily enough, while I was on that course, I met a girl there who said, "Oh, you've got to watch these videos," and said, "Oh, these videos are brilliant. I'll send you a link." And she sent me a link to the Stars of Wellbeing site, and I opted in and got these videos. And so that's how we came to be connected, and that's how I came to learn about the principles, is through that very random course that I went on, which I think that's really, really funny, because then I read an article. I started noticing the change in tone, and I read an article by Damien Mark Smith on the principles, and it went from there, really. So
that's great.
Yeah.
I've got a thing in my book, Life Beyond Money, and towards the end there's this quote from the Jewish book called the Talmud, where it's like if you can change one life, you've done enough, kind of thing. So there's me with my living from wisdom has to have 20,000 users, and then for you to come along and say, well, without you, I wouldn't have found the principles, kind of thing. Now, I'm sure you would have found it another way.
No, that's the way that I found it. So that's, that was obviously the path that, So yeah, it comes back to maybe there is no free will. And
yeah, there you go. Every time you mention the word free will, it sounds wrong to me. It sounds like, because it feels like all the really great stuff, and this sounds a bit woo-woo, but all the great stuff that's happened to me has been stuff that I haven't chosen, that I possibly wouldn't have chosen.
Yeah. And I think that's true when it comes to because I couldn't really explain why I wanted to do this course at the time, and I can see now that it just had real importance to where I am now, and that is really interesting. But I do like to see choice, and I do like to live my life from a place where I can choose. I do like that, but at the same time, having faith. Having faith that that you are going to get to where you're going. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I totally. If everything that has happened that has a real value is
Mommy,
stuff that you wouldn't have chosen.
he said.
Have we got another contestant?
Yeah, we've got a visitor.
Fantastic. But if everything that you said that's been of real importance wasn't something that you'd actually chosen, then there must be something bigger at work. In which case, the word faith is totally appropriate in my book.
Yeah, I do think whether or not you do believe in free will, I think it's. I don't know. I like the idea that I can create what I want, because I do think that we're incredibly powerful, and when we see that, maybe that's just opening up our kind of, I don't know, our wisdom and understanding that maybe that's just part of connecting to that wisdom, realizing how powerful we are.
I found it.
But I think having faith, I think acting, I don't know. Yeah, just having faith that we are part of something bigger, I guess, and that there is a lot of stuff that we just don't know.
Well, it's on its way. If it's meant to be for us, it's on its way to us now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I could see that all the time.
I know.
I know. This moment, as I'm talking to you, but I can't. Mind you, that's back to the human experience. So we've run for our 45 minutes. Thanks very much for that. I think it was a great conversation. And this is the first part of a two-parter. So what really worked well with the last one of these with Tyler Thurman was that people came in and gave us some of their views about all of this. And we're going to be, I think I said Thursday actually in the last one, but it was Friday evening, isn't it, that we're doing this? Or Friday lunchtime if we're in the US. The second part. We'd love to hear from you guys out there about what you're seeing about choice and free will and your flight path and being present and and faith even. So yeah, feel free to email me, julian@starsofwellbeing.com, and I'll discuss this stuff with Becky, and then we'll come back Friday and do a second exciting installment. If this has been a really interesting talk for me, because I didn't really know where the hell it was going to go, and it led to a really interesting place. So thank you, Becky.
I had a feeling I'd contradict myself somewhere along the way, but it's one of those questions, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you anyway. Thank you. It's been really good.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'll leave you having your hair done.
Yes, thank you.
It looks as if you're going to have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Terrific. I'll catch you on Friday. Catch all of you on Friday.